Shalom, my name is Adam, and I welcome you to the Parable of the Vineyard. Every day, Yahuah is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. Shabbat Shalom and welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Parable of the Vineyard YouTube Torah portion live stream. We are in week 22, Vayakhel, which is, and he assembled. And this is Exodus 35:1 through 38:20. I should just read on the screen, 38:20. And, interesting Torah portion. Most of it is the erecting of the tabernacle. So not a ton of stuff to really dig into, but there are a few points that are really interesting here. And I want to talk about really kind of digging out of the traditions of men that have really plagued the Torah-keeping world. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we get started, I just want to just mention out there that in case you're new to the this ministry or just stumbling across this Torah portion randomly, these are studies. I don't consider myself a Torah teacher. I am a disciple of Messiah, a believer in the Most High, and I believe it is our duty to keep the Torah to the best of our ability, knowing that we're in dispersion and that we can't keep every single one. But when we look through these things, we look at, hey, what can we keep? I think that's the attitude that we should have, rather than, we can't keep the whole law, so let's just toss it all out. I think we should look into it and say, hey, can we keep this one? Yeah. Can we keep that one? Yeah. Can we keep that one? Not really. Okay. That's interesting. We'll keep going. So like that's the kind of attitude we should have. And I offer these as a study for you to study alongside with me, to test alongside with me, and to know that I won't have everything right. And I don't ever claim to have everything right. But with that being said, I treat this as if like we're all in my living room, just reading the Torah portion, just talking about it. And, unfortunately it's a one-way conversation right now, but, one day we'll all be able to gather together and, man, what a great time that'll be when we just sit around and talk about the word, the whole time. So anyways, with that being said, let's start with a prayer and, we'll get started. Heavenly Father, Yahuah, we come before you in Yahusha's name. And we bless you and thank you for allowing us to be reconciled back to you through sending of your Son, your Word, the Logos. We thank you for giving us your commandments that we may do what's right before your eyes. And we just ask you to continue to strengthen us and to teach us every day, every week, that we may learn more of your ways and to do what's right and pleasing in your sight. And we ask you to prune us, to prune our heart, to prune off the impurities, the iniquities off us, so that we maybe pleasing in your sight. That's what we're looking for. We love you, we bless you, and we thank you for this Shabbat. Amen and amen. And we thank him also for letting us gather on this platform. How much longer that will happen, I don't know, but I'm very thankful, and I hope that he allows us to do this until that very last day. But with that being said, let's just do a quick shofar. It is kind of late. For those of you that are watching this as a recording, it's about almost 10:30 Central, and so I'm going to make sure you're awake. If you're watching this as a recording, well, who knows what time it is. Man, Psalm 150 verse 6 is one of my favorites. It says, let everything that has breath, not every human being, not every man or woman, but everything that has breath, praise Yahuah. And there's I think it's Psalm 147, 138? So it's one of the higher up Psalms in number. It talks about how like all the things in creation praises him, like the sun and the moon praises him. It's just an amazing Psalm. And if you haven't shared the gospel with your domesticated animal, I'd recommend it, because it says, I let everything that has breath praise Yah. It's literally the last verse of the Psalms, at least in the Psalms that we find in the canon. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get to the scriptures, what you're here for, and we'll start with Exodus 35:1, and again we'll be ending at 38:20. So, and Moshe gathered all the assembly of the children of Yisrael together, and said unto them, these are the words which Yahuah has commanded that you should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day there shall be to you a holy day, a set-apart day, a Kodesh day, a Shabbat of rest to you. Whosoever does work thereon shall be put to death. And, people would look at this and be like, put to death. I mean, yeah, right. Sabbath is obviously done away with. If you're new and you're just getting started off with the Sabbath, at first it might be a little different because you're probably used to mowing your lawn on Saturday. I call it Saturday. Let's just call it the seventh day. Let's not use pagan terms. So you're used to shopping on the seventh day, or doing this or that. The Shabbat, it might be different at first, but it ends up being such a blessing to know you have a day each week where it's like, praise Yah. Jubilees 222 or 223, I think, depending on the version. But it says that it's a day to eat, to drink, and to bless him who has created all things. And what a marvelous day. I think that's something we should do every day. But I think, it might be the day that since we're not working, we should have more time to do those things, to sing praises to his name. The type of worship he looks for in a lot of ways. It's all throughout the Psalms, is singing him a song. One of my favorite things to do on Shabbat is to just sit in the backyard on our backyard porch swing with my guitar, and that's where I like to sing him songs. And that's where I've written a lot of music. Some people say you can't do that on Shabbat. I would beg to differ. I don't think that's work. I think that's praising the Most High. But it's, man, when David talks about my cup runneth over, I didn't even know what that meant until I picked up a guitar and tried to sing to him. And notice I said tried, because my singing is needs some work. But I just want to talk a little bit about what to do on Shabbat here, because again, the rest of this portion really is about the building of the tabernacle. I want to talk about what we can do on Shabbat and what we probably shouldn't do. And it's definitely a day of no work. Is for your regular employment, don't do it. There's some debate with people whether you can do chores around the house, laundry. I think it's a day to put that down personally, but really at the core of what he's asking you to do is not to earn an income, not to go to work, go work for the man or the world. That's a day to set apart for Yah. I've got a busy household. I've got it's me, my wife, 5 children, and 3 of them are still toddler age. Well, my 5-year-old's not a toddler, but we still have some diapers, some pull-ups. 5 children make a mess, and so neither my wife nor I like to live in filth. So 2 hours in the living room, the children are making a mess, and so sometimes we like to pick up a little bit. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But really the core of it is no working, and it's not a day to buy or sell, and it's not a day to make others work. So, some people are like, well, if I go to a restaurant, they're working anyways. It's not a big deal. I don't think we should add to the problem. I think we should we should do what Yahuah commands us to do, is to not work. And in the when he gave the commandments, it was specific, not letting your employees work, not making your employees work, not even your animals are they supposed to work. So it's supposed to be just an absolute rest. And again, at first there's a little bit of transition, and at first you're like, you have no idea what to do. Like, what do I do? Do I just nap all day long? Or and I know that's what I did at first. I was like, this is great. I'm just gonna nap all day long. But remember, the Shabbat is also, it's called a holy convocation. And in part, those of you that are watching this live, that's kind of a fulfillment of it, where two or three are gathered, especially for you all in the chat. You're gathered together, where two or three gathered together, right? The holy convocation is a public gathering. It's a public meeting of Yah's people in order to worship, praise, and read the word and eat. And so the Shabbat is a holy convocation. So if you have anyone near you, it's a great idea to get together. Some would say, you can't do that because you can't travel. Well, that's what I also love about Messiah Yahusha's testimony and his walk, is he showed us that that's actually not quite the case. The only that commandment comes from Jubilees 50, which it says you're not supposed to go on a journey. And I don't think Shabbat is the day to go on a long trip, or and it's probably not a day to go fly in an airplane or drive cross country. But driving a little bit to get to a fellowship, not a big deal. Not a big deal in my opinion. I want to show some scripture. Matthew 12:1-12. At that time, Yahusha went on the Sabbath day through the corn. Right, so remember, this is the Sabbath day. He went through the corn, and his disciples were hungered and began to pluck in the ears of corn and eat. So here you have Messiah Yahusha traveling via foot. Certainly, that's a lot more work than getting in a car. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. And the interesting part is, the only thing that they could charge him of was oral Torah, because it's not unlawful to eat on the Sabbath day. It's not unlawful to walk on the Sabbath day, or to travel. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was an hungered, and they that were with him, how he entered into the house of Elohim, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests? Or have ye not read in the Torah how on the Shabbat days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would have not condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Adonai even of the Sabbath day. Now that doesn't mean that we're Adonai of the Sabbath day and we can just do whatever. So keep that in mind. But keep reading. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue, and behold, there was a man which had his hand withered, and they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, he will not lay hold on it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath day. So this kind of opens it up a little bit. And first of all, there is no Torah against healing on the Shabbat day. So once again, this is a oral tradition. This is a man-made commandment of Elohim that the Pharisees were rebuking Yahusha for breaking. And he was openly breaking them, right? Just to show them, like, your commandments don't mean anything to me. Not to be a rebel and a punk, but just to show them that, their laws are not true. They're not valid. They're not from Yahuah. Therefore, they don't stand, and they're just commandments and precepts of men. So, but Yahusha healed on the Sabbath day. But he also says, it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. There was a point where I was very strict about the Shabbat that you couldn't, you couldn't do anything. But as time and as you grow, you learn that it's good to do well on the Sabbath day. So, like, I had a brother that told me about a recent thing where, a brother had invited him to go out and go help a homeless man, and I can't remember exactly what they did, but for the average Torah person, they think, oh, you're breaking Shabbat, because you went and bought something and fed the homeless. I think those things are lawful to do well in the Shabbat. So like if you can help somebody in the Shabbat, if if your neighbor needs you to go over and what if you got an elderly lady next to you, and a pipe bursts in her house, or her water heater bursts, or goes out. Maybe just a pilot light or something goes out, and it's in the wintertime and she needs heat or something. Are you gonna say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't come over. It's the Shabbat"? Those are the kind of things where I think it's like, hey, it's lawful to do well in the Shabbat. I think at the core of it, we shouldn't have our normal gainful employment where we earn an income on the Shabbat, but things where you can help your neighbor and be a light to your community. If the opportunity presents itself, I think you should do it. I think you should. But a lot. So I'm just trying to think. I wish I had had all the questions written down that people have asked me over the years of what we can and can't do on Shabbat. But at the end of the day, I do think it's a day to eat. And eat well, I think it's a day to eat the best. It's not a day, in my opinion, for leftovers. And I know a lot of people get angry and upset with me about that. I do believe it is okay to cook on Shabbat. I don't believe that that's the type of work he's talking about, especially if it's a feast day. I believe it's a day for the best food, but I don't want to get into that because I know a lot of you get really upset with me about that, and so we don't need to go down that road today. But I do believe it is a day to feast. It's a weekly feast, appointment, meeting with the Most High. It's a day to eat well. And again, like a Jubilee, I love Jubilees. Eat, drink, and bless him. It's a day to eat, drink, and bless him who has created all things. And if you have local fellowship, I think it's a great day to get together, to assemble. For those of you that don't have that kind of fellowship, it's also why I try to keep these going every Shabbat so that you can have some sort of fellowship together. It's not perfect, but hey, those of you in there in the chat right now, you're assembling, right? There's still no replacement for in-person handshakes, hugs, sharing a meal together, reading the Word together in person, singing songs together. Let me tell you something. It is absolutely joyful. But continuing about traveling on Shabbat, I just want to show you that Yahusha did travel on Shabbat. Luke 4:14-16, and Yahusha returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him through all the region round about, and he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. So he had to travel some distance, right, to get to the synagogue. And so for those of you, that believe it's not lawful to, go to someone's house or a congregation to fellowship on Shabbat because you can't travel, I'm here to tell you, Messiah Yahusha did, and that's good enough for me. So that brings us to the next thing. So this is an interesting verse here. Exodus 35:3, ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations on the Shabbat. So, I also know that a lot of the professions back then, especially, working with metals, and it all required making a fire. I do believe that he spoke of this no kindling fire in the context of work, because let's imagine this for a second. We know that the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath is supposed to be a blessing for us. I often, in thinking about this and taking this to its most literal form, I think about, brothers and sisters that live in the northern part of the United States, Canada, Alaska, and if they're not able to have fire in their house to heat their home in the winter, first of all, it can endanger their health. And second of all, that becomes a burden. If I lived in those climates, which I don't, but I do live in an area where it gets cold. I mean, this winter that we had that crazy storm, it got -15, and we had 2 foot of snow on the ground. If I couldn't have heated our home on Shabbat, that would have been a terrible burden, and there would have been no joy in that. And, some would say kindle is the operative word here, that they should already have a fire going, because back then it was a lot of work to get a fire started. So some people say, hey, well, what this really means is, it's no fire for work purposes. Some people say, hey, well, you're not supposed to just kindle it during Shabbat. You should have it already ready on prep day and just keep it going through Shabbat. That's an interesting way to look at it as well. Some people would use this no fire thing. So see, you can't cook, right? But again, I do believe that is the context for it is your employment, especially well, again, I'll drop the cooking thing. But think about this also. So if we're not supposed to have, any kind of fire, so even like a candle. So you're telling me, once the sun goes down, the Most High doesn't want you having a candle lit so you can read the scriptures to your family? So these are kind of some of the things that I think about and try to understand as to what is actually going on here. And so because people take that literally, Judaism takes it to the extreme. Like you can't drive a car because, there's a spark, a flame that's kindling a fire. They'll even think about a light switch. They're like, okay, well, electricity isn't the fire itself, but what about the electricity source? Is it from coal? So are they burning a fire? So are you contributing to the problem? So it just keeps going and going and going. And so at some point you have to ask yourself, what is this really referring to? And I do believe that it's it's in a context of work, not in a context of some of these other things. So at the end of the day, again, the scripture says, where is it? Sabbath is made for man, Mark 2, 27 through 28. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath, right? So it's not supposed to be this just burdensome thing that you don't look forward to each week. This is something that should be looked forward to each week. So just something to consider with the context of no kindling of fire throughout your habitations on the Shabbat. Just something to consider. Okay, let's keep going. So Exodus 35:4, and Moshe spoke unto all the assembly of the children of Yisrael, saying, this is the thing which Yahuah commanded, saying, take ye from among you an offering unto Yahuah. Whosoever is of a willing heart, let him bring it, an offering of Yahuah, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. We're going to talk about linen here a little bit, and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red. And we talked about this also a few weeks ago. We really believe that this means either just blue or violet skins, and shittim wood, and oil for the light, and spices for anointing, and for the sweet incense, and onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod, and for the breastplate. And so we see here, this is a willing offering, right? Whoever is willing to do this, a willing heart, let him do it. We saw this in, was it last week's Torah portion, the week before? And he didn't command it, but he's like, hey, whoever's willing, bring it on over. Remember, they just got made rich by the Egyptians after leaving. And every wise-hearted among you shall come and make all that Yahuah has commanded, the tabernacle, his tent, his covering, his taches, his boards, his bars, his pillars, his sockets, right? This is for you construction-minded guys. This is your time to shine right here. The ark and the staves thereof, with the mercy seat and the veil of the covering, the table and his staves and all his vessels, and the showbread, and the menorah, and the 7-branch candlestick, also for the light, and his furniture, and his lamps, and the oil for the light, and the incense altar, and his staves, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the hanging for the door at the entering of the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offering, with his brazen grate, and his staves, and all his vessels, and the laver and his foot, the hangings of the court, his pillars, and their sockets, and the hanging for the door of the court, the pins of the tabernacle, and the pins of the court, and their cords, the cloths of service, to do service in the holy place, holy garments for Aharon the priest, and the garments of his sons to minister in the priest's office. And all the assembly of the children of Yisrael departed from the presence of Moshe, and they came, every one whose heart stirred him up, and everyone whom his ruach made willing, and they brought Yahuah's offering to the work of the tabernacle of the assembly, and for all his service, and for the holy garments. And they came, both men and women, as many as were willing-hearted, and brought bracelets, and earrings, and rings, and tablets, and all jewels of gold, and every man that offered an offering of gold unto Yahuah. And every man with whom was found blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and red skins of rams, and blue or violet skins, brought them. Everyone that did offer an offering of silver and brass brought Yahuah's offering, and every man with whom was found shittim wood for any work of the service brought it. It's really interesting. I actually didn't even think about this till just now. Okay. I didn't think about this till just now that, so going back on the thought of leaving Egypt and hello, they were made rich with jewels and gold and silver and all these different things. And a lot of these things they took from the Egyptians ended up being part of the tabernacle. And it is interesting. I think it's in Isaiah 61. I think it is. Isaiah 61. Yeah, but you shall be named the priests of Yahuah. Men shall call you the ministers of our Elohim. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles. In their glory shall you boast yourselves. There's another passage I'm thinking about, but essentially it says that, here it is. It's Isaiah 66. That's why. Okay. Here we go. It says, this is the birth of the generation and of New Jerusalem, right? Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad with her, all you that love her. Rejoice for joy with her, all you that mourn for her. And this is the everlasting tabernacle of Elohim. This is not the tabernacle in the wilderness. This is the everlasting one. That you may suck and be satisfied with the breasts of her consolations, that you may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. For thus says Yahuah, behold, I will extend to her like a river. Extend peace to her like... That was right outside my house. I will extend peace to her. I hope I didn't flinch like a little baby. I'll extend peace to her like a river. Wow, I saw that one. And the glory of the Gentiles like a flowing stream. And then you shall suck, and you shall be borne upon her sides, and be dandled upon her knees. Anyways, what this is basically saying is, we're going to be... the nations are going to basically bring all their riches to the Most High and to New Jerusalem, and the righteous will be decked with these things. And I wonder if New Jerusalem already comes prepared and built. But anyways, I just thought that was kind of interesting parallel of the riches that the righteous get leaving Egypt, and kind of the same thing will happen when New Jerusalem comes and that bigger second Exodus comes. So just an interesting thought that just came to mind just now. And verse 25 of Exodus 35, and all the women that were wise-hearted did spin with their hands, and brought that which they had spun, both of the blue and of the purple and of the scarlet and of the fine linen, and all the women whose hearts stirred them up, when all the women whose hearts stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair, and their rulers brought the onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod, and for the breastplate, and spice, and oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. The children of Yisrael brought a willing offering unto Yahuah, every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all manner of work which Yahuah commanded to be made by the hand of Moshe. And Moshe said unto the children of Yisrael, see, Yahuah has called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Horai, the son of Yehuda, of the tribe of Yehuda. And he has filled him with Ruach Elohim in wisdom and understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship, and to devise curious works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass, and in the cutting of stones to set them, and in the carvings of wood to make any manner of cunning work. And he has put in his heart that he may teach both he and Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. Them has he filled with wisdom of heart, to work all manner of work of the engraver and of the cunning workman, and of the embroiderer in blue and in purple and scarlet and in fine linen, and of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work. Chapter 36. Then wrought Bezalel and Aholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whom Yahuah put wisdom and understanding, to know how to work all manner of work for the service of the sanctuary, according to all that Yahuah had commanded. So know that wisdom is not just wisdom in scriptures and wisdom in teaching the scriptures or whatnot. It's also people that work with their hands, right? So Yahuah can give wisdom and understanding in someone to do good work with their hands. Verse 2, and Moshe called Bezalel and Aholiab and every wise-hearted man in whose heart Yahuah had put wisdom, even everyone whose heart stirred him up to come unto the work to do it. And they received of Moshe all the offering which the children of Yisrael had brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary, to make it withal. And they brought yet unto him free offerings every morning. And all the wise men that wrought all the work of the sanctuary came every man from his work which they made. And they spoke unto Moshe, saying, the people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which Yahuah commanded to make. And Moshe gave commandment, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing. So that's awesome, right? So they had such a willing heart that like they had enough, and they're like stop, no more, no more, no more. For the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it, and too much. And every wise-hearted man among them that wrought the work of the tabernacle made 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubim of cunning work made he them. The length of one curtain was 28 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. The curtains were all of one size. And he coupled the 5 curtains one unto another, and the other 5 curtains he coupled one unto another. And he made loops of blue on the edge of one curtain, from the selvage in the coupling. Likewise he made the uttermost side of another curtain, in the coupling of the second. 50 loops made he in one curtain, and 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain which was in the coupling of the second. The loops held one curtain to another. And he made 50 taches of gold, and coupled the curtains one unto another with the taches. So it became one tabernacle. And he made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains made he made them. The length of one curtain was 30 cubits, and 4 cubits was the breadth of one curtain. The 11 curtains were of one size, and he coupled the 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops upon the uttermost edge of the curtain in the coupling, and 50 loops made he upon the edge of the curtain which he couples the second. And he made 50 taches of brass to couple the tent together, that it might be one. And he made a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering of blue skins above that. And he made the boards of the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up. The length of a board was 10 cubits, and the breadth of a board 1 cubit and a half. One board had 2 tenons equally distant from one another. Thus did he make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And he made the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side southward. And 40 sockets of silver he made under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his 2 tenons. And for the other side of the tabernacle, which is toward the north corner, he made 20 boards. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward he made 6 boards. And 2 boards made he for the corners of the tabernacle and the 2 sides. And they were coupled beneath, and coupled together at the head thereof, to one ring. Thus he did to both of them in both of the corners. And there were 8 boards, and their sockets were 16 sockets of silver, under every board 2 sockets. And he made bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the tabernacle for the side westward. And he made the middle bar to shoot through the boards from the one end to the other. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and made their rings of gold to be places for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. And he made a veil of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen, with cherubim made he it of cunning work. And he made thereunto 4 pillars of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were of gold, and he cast them 4 sockets of silver. And he made a hanging for the tabernacle door of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen of needlework, and the 5 pillars of it with their hooks, and he overlaid their chapiters and their fillets with gold, but their 5 sockets were of brass. So, there's not a whole lot I can really comment on this. Again, I'm not really a construction-minded guy, so I can't really understand how this is all put together. It just doesn't compute with me. But just know that, it's some of the finest materials in the world were made here. You had gold, of course, silver, you had brass. It was extremely expensive. It's not like today, to have a blue shirt or a blue coat. It's a dime a dozen. But to have blue and purple and scarlet linen, I mean, this is extremely expensive. These are the hardest colors to get a hold of. And, also, I believe that these are his favorite colors. You've got blue, you've got red, right, scarlet, and when you take blue and red, put them together, you have purple, which is and some would say the color for royalty. And that same thing with Aaron's robes, right? Scarlet, blue, purple, just beautiful colors. And I have to think that the Most High, if I had to take a guess, I can't speak for him, I think his favorite color is blue, and it always has been mine too. He just made so many things blue, right? That are so abundant. The firmament, the sapphire firmament, that's why it's blue. The water, it reflects off of that. That's why it looks blue. There's probably a lot more I can think of. But the blue jay, how about the blue jay, right? And you got the cardinal, the two prettiest birds, the blue and red, two favorite colors. Anyways, just some side commentary again. Not that there's really much you can glean from that, but Exodus 37. And Bezalel made the ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half was the length of it, and a cubit and a half the breadth of it, and a cubit and a half the height of it. And he overlaid it with pure gold within and without, and made a crown of gold to it round about. And he cast for it 4 rings of gold to be set by the 4 corners of it, even 2 rings upon the one side of it, and 2 rings upon the other side of it. And he made staves of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold. And he put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark to bear the ark. And he made the mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half was the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And he made 2 cherubim of gold, beaten out of one piece he made them, on the 2 ends of the mercy seat, 1 cherub on the end of this side, and another cherub on the other side on that side. So again, just a quick little idea. So you have the cherub on this side, that side, and this is roughly what it looks like. Nobody really exactly knows, but just a rough idea. And the cherubim spread out their wings on high, and covered with their wings over the mercy seat, with their faces one to another, even to the mercy seatward were the faces of the cherubim. And he made the table of shittim wood. 2 cubits was the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and made thereunto a crown of gold round about. Also he made thereunto a border of a handbreadth round about, and made a crown of gold for the border thereof round about. And he cast for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings upon the 4 corners that were in the feet thereof. Over against the border were the rings, the places for the staves to bear the table. And he made the staves of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold, to bear the table. And he made the vessels which were upon the table, his dishes, his spoons, his bowls, and his covers to cover withal of pure gold. And he made the menorah, the 7-branched candlestick. Of pure gold, of beaten work made he the menorah, his shaft, and his branches, his bowls, his knops, his flowers were of the same, and 6 branches going out of the sides thereof, 3 branches of the menorah on the one side thereof, and 3 branches of the menorah on the other side thereof. 3 bowls made after the fashion of almonds in the one branch, a knop and a flower, and 3 bowls made like almonds in another branch, and a knop and a flower, so throughout the 6 branches going out of the menorah. And in the menorah were 4 bowls made like almonds, his knops and his flowers, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches going out of it. Their knops and their branches were of all the same. All of it was of one beaten work of pure gold. And he made his 7 lamps, and his snuffers, and his snuff dishes of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold made he it, and all the vessels thereof. So this is a heavy. This was a talent. A talent is like 75 pounds, right? So I mean, this was no small candlestick. So speaking of talent and being 75 pounds, it reminded me of a scripture in Revelation. Revelation 16:21 reads, "And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent." Right? So you had hail the size of 75 pounds. And men blasphemed Elohim because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great. I mean, that's instant death. 75 pounds from the sky hits you, you're dead. It's over. Continuing, Exodus 37:25, "And he made the incense altar of shittim wood. The length of it was a cubit, and the breadth of it was a cubit. It was 4 square, and 2 cubits was the height of it. The horns thereof were of the same. And he overlaid it with pure gold, both the top of it and the sides thereof round about. And the horns of it also he made it unto a crown of gold round about. And he made 2 rings of gold for it under the crown thereof, by the 2 corners of it, upon the 2 sides thereof, to be places for the staves to bear it withal. And he made the staves of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold. And he made the holy anointing oil, and the pure incense of sweet spices, according to the work of the apothecary. Exodus 38:1. And he made the altar of burnt offering of shittim wood. 5 cubits was the length thereof, and 5 cubits the breadth thereof. It was 4 square, and 3 cubits the height thereof. And he made the horns thereof on the 4 corners of it. The horns thereof were of the same, and he overlaid it with brass. And he made all the vessels of the altar, the pots, and the shovels, and the basins, and the flesh hooks, and the fire pans. All the vessels thereof he made of brass. And he made for the altar a brazen grate of network under the compass thereof, beneath it to the midst of it. And he cast 4 rings for the 4 ends of the grate of brass, to be places for the staves. And he made the staves of shittim wood, and overlaid them with brass. And he put the staves into the rings on the sides of the altar, to bear it withal. And he made the altar hollow with boards. And he made the laver of brass, and the foot of it of brass, and the looking glasses of the women assembling, which assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the assembly. That's interesting. The looking glasses of the women. What does that say in the King Jimmy, Exodus 38:8? Looking glasses. Oh, why didn't I see this earlier? Huh. Feminine vision, also a mirror, looking glass, vision. Vision. Interesting. All right, so he made the laver of brass, and the foot of it was brass, and the looking glasses of the women assembling. The vision? Is it like spectacles? Which assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the assembly. And he made the court on the south side southward. The hangings of the court were of fine twined linen, 100 cubits. We're going to talk about linen here just to finish it up in a second. Their pillars were 20, and their brazen sockets 20. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. And for the north side the hangings were 100 cubits. Their pillars were 20, and their sockets of brass 20. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the west side were hangings of 50 cubits. Their pillars 10, and their sockets 10. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the east side eastward 50 cubits. The hangings of the one side of the gate were 15 cubits. Their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the other side of the court gate, on this hand and on that, were hangings of 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And all the hangings of the court round about were of fine twined linen. And the sockets for the pillars were of brass, and the hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver, and the overlaying of their chapiters of silver, and all the pillars of the court were filleted with silver. And the hanging for the gate of the court was needlework of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen. And 20 cubits was the length, and the height in the breadth was 5 cubits, answerable to the hangings of the court. And their pillars were 4, and their sockets of brass 4, their hooks of silver, and the overlaying of their chapiters and their fillets of silver, and all the pins of the tabernacle and of the court round about were of brass. So, a couple things. We saw linen mentioned here quite a few times, and we know that the Most High used the best things here. So there's an interesting study that was done. Doesn't look like it's going to pull up, but as we learned, where the Most High is like, hey, don't eat pork, it's an abomination. Well, even science, modern day science, will tell you that pork is terrible for you. It's toxic, and it just destroys your body. So the Most High is looking out for us. Linen is the best fabric you can wear. Linen is the pinnacle of fabrics found in the plant world, and wool is the pinnacle of fibers or clothing that you can find in the animal world. But the problem is, so here, let's just show you this real quick. I'll just read this for you. I know I read this before in a different study, but I know there's always new people, so I want to share this. In 2003, a study was done by a Jewish doctor, Heidi Yellen, on the frequencies of fabric. According to this study, the human body has a signature frequency of 100. It's like a baseline. And organic cotton is the same, 100. The study showed that if the number is lower than 100, it puts a strain on the body. A diseased, nearly dead person has a frequency of about 15. And that is where polyester, rayon, and silk register. So what this is saying is that if you're wearing polyester, now I'm trying to get rid of all my polyester clothes. It's unfortunate. Some of my favorite clothes are polyester, but if you wear polyester, rayon, silk, it takes away from your energy. It like drains you. It's like if you ever got to your car with a dead battery because something drained it all night. That's kind of what's happening to your body. Non-organic cotton registers a signature frequency of about 70. However, if the fabric has a higher frequency, it gives energy to the body. This is where linen comes in as a super fabric. Its frequency is 5,000. Wool is also 5,000, but when mixed together with linen, the frequencies cancel each other out and fall to 0. Even wearing a wool sweater on top of a linen outfit in a study collapsed the electrical field. The reason for this could be that the energy field of wool flows from left to right, while that of the linen flows in opposite direction from left to right. I just actually noticed this. When I wear polyester, every time if you think about this, if you have a polyester shirt or like sweatshirt or jacket, when you take it off, you got the static, right? It's like, and you have like your hair sticks up and whatnot. It's because it was literally draining your body of energy, and it's like attached to the fabric. It's amazing. What's interesting about this though is the two super fabrics is linen and wool. But when mixed together, they cancel each other out. And what's amazing is you can find that in your scriptures. Leviticus 19:19, you shall keep my statutes. You shall not let your cattle gender with a diverse kind. You shall not sow your field with mingled seed. Neither shall a garment mingled of linen and wool come upon you. Right? He's like, don't mix linen and woolen. Don't do it. Now we know it's because it's terrible for you. Because when plus 5,000 and negative 5,000 come together, you have 0, which is actually worse than polyester. So if you have a fabric mixed with linen and wool together, it's actually worse than polyester or silk or rayon, because that has a signature of 15, if that study is true, which I do believe it is. Deuteronomy 22:11-12, thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts, as of woolen and linen together. Since we're here, then thou shalt make the fringes or tzitzit upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou coverest thyself. So something really interesting. So I have I've got 2 pairs of linens. And let me tell you something. It might just be my mind, but I thoroughly enjoy every time I wear linens. I really, really do. I'm actually wearing them right now, and there's just a healing property about it. There's something just nice about wearing linen, and I've never experienced it before. So it's unfortunate. It's actually very expensive to switch over. And so I haven't. What I have done in the meantime is I'm trying to get rid of all my polyester clothes and replace it with at least cotton, 100% cotton clothes. It's hard for me to even find 100% organic cotton clothes, but I am glad to know that you can get 100% cotton jeans. That's nice, because I do like wearing jeans. And also I was like, oh no, jeans, what's jeans made out of? Probably polyester, but I was glad to see that most jeans are made out of 100% cotton. So just something to think about. These are one of those Torah statutes where people laugh and mock at you and say, you're not going to wear mixed threaded shirt, and be like, yeah, actually no, I don't want to, because the Torah says no. But certain studies will show you that it's actually not good for your health. So anyways, so just some things to think about. Again, interesting portion, not a whole lot to talk about as far as the meat of it, which was the building of the tabernacle. And we have one more week in Exodus next week, and then we're in Leviticus. Where is this year going? Join me in prayer, brothers and sisters, as we conclude this. Heavenly Father, Yahuah, we just come before you in Yahusha's name, and we bless you for sending your word for us, that we may have reconciliation and life through you. And we just thank you for Shabbat and for all that you do and provide for us, for making this beautiful world for us to dwell in. And we just pray that we be ready for the return of Messiah Yahusha, whenever that may be. And in his name we do pray and bless you. Amen. So let's do the Aaronic blessing. Yevarechecha Yahuah ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Yahuah panav elecha ve'chuneka Yisa Yahuah panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. So Yahuah bless you and keep you. Yahuah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom, give you peace. Good seeing you, brothers and sisters. And we'll see you next week for week 23, the last week of Exodus. So with that, we're going to end with just a few songs and have a blessed Shabbat. Enjoy it.
I sing to Yahuah, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He is my El, and I praise him, Elohim of my father, and I exalt him. Yahuah is a man of battle, Yahuah is his name. He has cast Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The depths covered them, they went down to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahuah, has become great in power. Your right hand, O Yahuah, has crushed the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath, it consumed them like stubble. And with the wind of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. The floods stood like a wall, the depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I pursue, I overtake, I divide the spoil, my being is satisfied on them. I draw out my sword, my hand destroys them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahuah, among the mighty ones? Who is like you, great in Kodeshah, awesome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your kindness, you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you guided them to your Kodesh dwelling. Peoples heard, they trembled, anguish gripped the inhabitants of Pelasheth. Then the chiefs of Edom were troubled, the mighty men of Moab. Trembling grips them, all the inhabitants of Canaan melted. Fear and dread fell on them by the greatness of your arm. They are as silent as a stone. Until your people pass over, O Yahuah. Until the people whom you have bought pass over. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahuah, which you have made for your own dwelling, the Mikdash, O Yahuah, which your hands have prepared. Yahuah reigns forever and ever.
Above the ocean of people who The world wonders as we call upon your name. The waters marvel as we're set above the waves. Amazing grace. Now here we stand, our hearts are burning in his hand. Prodigals are finally